Hello guys, now for a little while I've been thinking about starting a series of MonoGame development videos. Now, I'm thinking something like a 2D top-down RPG, nothing fancy, just something everybody knows and everyone's familiar with, we know how it works, and we just have a bit of fun, just see how we go. It's not intended to be like the most, the most awesome game ever made and the most efficient code ever or anything like that. We're just going to have a bit of fun, put together something. If you guys have any ideas and suggestions and maybe some ideas for features and stuff like that, we can consider that, and if it's viable for the game and it fits, then we can look into it. I don't mind doing that at all. So I'm all on board for suggestions. This could essentially be built by you guys if you're interested. What I'm going to do today is just simply set up a project, some boilerplate code for MonoGame. Just create a program, whap in MonoGame, bang, that is it. Nothing else. We're just going to get the window set up and that is it. What I'll take from there is, if we're going to go the 2D top-down RPG route, which I'm thinking, is we'll look at things like tile maps, we'll look at sprite animation, we'll look at maybe even some user interface work, networking stuff if we're interested in making it networked multiplayer. I don't mind doing any of that. We can do any of that, that's fine. But we'll get things started today and just create the project. If you guys want to follow along, that's cool. I'm using Visual Studio Community 2015. To my knowledge, 2017 came out a week or two ago. It should be around about the sort of same. So if you guys want to follow along, it should be relatively painless. Alright, so dudes, right, what we want to do is we want to create a project. What we'll do is just make a simple console application. It might sound a bit sketchy making a console application when we want a game. It doesn't really matter what we create because we're going to inject MonoGame into it anyway. The console may prove useful for like debugging information and stuff, so it kind of works out. We can do that. We can always remove it later if we don't want it. That's fine. It's just to get us up and running. So come up with a name for your game. I'm gonna go the game. That game. Yep, wicked. Get that created. Awesome. So here we go with some simple code just to get us compiled program. It's just be a console application. If I run that, it'll just simply spring up a console window and bang, away it'll go. It's not doing anything. If I run that, yep, see, there you go, run it again. There we go. Simple window pops up, disappears because it's not doing anything. What I'm doing now is I want to hook MonoGame into it. Now, to do that, we have to use a system called NuGet. Disclaimer, I'm not sure if that's how you meant to pronounce it. Not a clue. I know what it's supposed to do. I know what I need from it. That's all that matters. If you guys know, would like to correct me, that is fine. We'll go with it. What we want to do is we want to install the MonoGame package into our project using that system. And to do that, we must right-click on our project over here and manage NuGet packages. This will spring open a window here showing what you've got installed on your current project, and then you can simply just browse for what you want. And obviously, we want MonoGame. Now doing that, you can see you get a massive plethora, huge list of MonoGame stuff to choose from. I mean, this is essentially to decide what you're targeting. We get away with maybe a couple of things here when it comes to developing on Windows, like Desktop GL, Windows DX, things like that. What we want to do is we want to target Windows DX though, although it doesn't really matter at this point, we could always change it later on. But the idea is that if we target Windows DX, we can use another package that's available for injecting MonoGame into the WPF framework, so we can make editors and things like that. So what I'm doing is I'm just simply preparing for the future and using the right one now, so we don't have to worry about it later on. I'm not saying there aren't ways of using, say, OpenGL in editors and things like that, but there's simple components that are available as packages, much like this, for injecting MonoGame into WPF, and that works for me. It's simple, we can get away with it. So what I'm doing was select Windows DX, which is DirectX. Choose the latest stable, get the latest version, why not? Install. Maybe this will pop up just to let you know that it's installing. Okay. There you go, you got a readme of what it includes. We don't really bother about that, or I'm not personally at this point in time. Now if we open our project over here, we should have the reference to MonoGame, which we do, right there. Awesome. Now what I want to do is we want to get our MonoGame window set up. Now what we'll do, we'll create a separate file for that, we'll keep it separate from the the entry point of the program, which is here. We'll create so right click on our project, we'll go to add, new item, and we want a class. We'll just call this, I don't know, we'll call this just main game. We'll call it main game. Okay, so we've just got this empty class now to play with. What this needs to do now, it needs to extend from game, which is a MonoGame class. No, we haven't got the namespace for it now, so we can just add that by using Visual Studio's wonderful utilities, using quick actions refactoring, and it'll give us an option to add the using at the top. And in doing so, we get a new line up here, which gives us access to that class. Okay, now if you build it now, it's all fine, it'll all work, nothing's going to break. You obviously won't have our window yet, we're not using this class, okay? So what we can do first of all, we'll go back to our program. Now, depending on your skill level and who you are and where you've come from, you may know some of these things that I'm typing. If you're entirely new to programming, I can make an entirely new series which can get things up to speed. What this video is going to be about, or what this series is going to be about, is assuming you have some knowledge of C# and development in general, because that makes game development a lot easier, knowing if you know how things work and how the language works, and what are the pros and cons of different approaches. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a using statement. We're going to create a new instance of our game. Let's just call it our game. Okay, so it's a new instance of our game. Now, I suppose I can quickly, briefly recap on what using does. So if it's a disposable class, which game is rather the base class game, what it does is when it reaches the end of this block, it will dispose of that. It saves you, like when it comes to say file reading, things like that, it saves you leaving files open unnecessarily, for example. It's the same thing here, isn't it? It saves leaving memory just consumed when there's no need for it. Okay. So what we're going to do is, we've got our instance of game here, and what we're simply going to run. And that is it. Just going to run it. Right, so if I run that now, we probably get an exception. Yep, no graphics device service. Okay, so it's trying to run it, but there's no graphics device set up in our game. And what the graphics device does, it decides, where we're rendering to, etc., etc. So what we need to do is we want a graphics device manager in our game, and in the constructor for our game, we want to instantiate it with a reference to our game. Now what the graphics device manager does, it just manages how the graphics device is created. We don't really need to worry about that at this point. This is something you'll probably very rarely have to tap into unless you seriously have issues with your game that you need to sort out in terms of like widescreening and all sorts of this stuff. It's nothing you should worry about. So in doing so, this should set up our graphics device. Okay. Now, deep down in game, we should have access to a graphics device property which we can do things with, which is what this creates. Okay. So in terms of where we are now, we've just created a graphics device on our game. We're running it from our main entry point of the program, and we should have something to show you now. Should. And voila, we have a window. Okay, it's black. Okay. That is just literally showing, an empty render target, as it were. What we need to do is we need to clear that down every time we draw. That is, every time we show what is on screen. So how it works is, it's like essentially you've got like a flip book by default anyway. You can change this, you can change how it works. You've got a flip book, and what happens is you have one page on top of the other, and all the times you're drawing to that back page, and just before it's shown, it flips them pages around. Okay, so it's very important that you clear these pages down before you draw to them. Otherwise, you may have like a pollution or an overflow of what you've drawn previously showing up on your next step, on your next flip, as it were. So what we need to do is, in our main game, there's an overridable method called, and I've gone straight past it, draw. Okay. Now, just stick it in here. What we need to do is like I said, remember this graphics device manager, what I said earlier, it creates a graphics device for us. Okay. So we should have access to the graphics device property deep down in the game, which we can clear. Now what this does is like, it clears the current page that we're looking at. I'm using analogies. It's really a render target in MonoGame terms, but in our analogy that I explained a minute ago, you know, we're on that back page before it shows it, before it flips them. What we're doing here is we're clearing that page to make sure it's all constantly just cleared to one blank colour, so we have no pollution of what we've drawn previously showing up. So famously, what MonoGame, or rather what XNA, what MonoGame is based on, we're clear to cornflower blue by default. We'll just follow that same thing here. It gives some sense of familiarity. Okay, so there we have it. Now there's one thing that bugs me about this. I can't see my mouse cursor when I go into the screen. So a lot of games, you know, like first person shooters, you don't have your cursor unless you open a menu, or you know, because you have a lot of, or maybe you wouldn't show you the Windows cursor because you're drawing your own cursor, your own image, your own icon as the cursor. I mean, I'm not really bothered about this stage, so what I want to do is I want to show the cursor so I don't lose it when I move into the bounds of the window. It's quite frustrating. I don't know where my mouse is at some point. So in our constructor, again, this is another property deep down in the game. There's a is mouse visible, and we'll set that to true. Okay, if we run that now, there we go. We don't lose our cursor when we move to the bounds of the window. Terrific stuff. Anyway, that's exactly what I want. That's exactly the sort of stage I want to take this video up to before progressing any further. I feel like I'm happy with that. That's the foundation for where we can go in future, and we're clean. There's nothing else. That is it. We just have our window. So guys, if there's anything you want me to consider for any future videos, or for this game in general, then do give us a shout. I'd be ecstatic to hear from you. That'd be great. I hope you found this useful. Any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. And I'll see you next time.